Next, we have our keynote address introduction, and I'd like you guys to help me introduce Mr. Anthony G. Smith. Mr. Smith is the superintendent of Wynwood City School District.
You read that?
I know that.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure it was perfect. You know, it's just.
Okay. Just checking.
They warned me about this. Okay. An amazing man. I've had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of times. We did a lot of presentations and everything. I just want to say thank you to you. Thank you to everyone.
All right. Thank you. All right. Okay. All right. This is. I don't know.
Okay.
This is when the program changes dramatically. All right. So I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you have ever met someone the first time you met them, you did not like them? So your keynote speaker that's going to come up, I didn't like this guy at all. And
the feeling was mutual.
yes. But now I love it. Now I love it. And let me tell you why I didn't like him. So his resume is very extensive, but I'm going to cut to the chase and get to the main parts. We were I was a principal at Cincinnati Public, and we came to a meeting with the business leaders about how to partner with schools and make schools better places so that partnership and businesses could work together seamlessly. And there was one seat available, and of course the seat was next to him. And he asked me who I was, told him who I was. He asked me the name of my school, I gave him the name of my school, and he says, did you know, now this is the first time I met him, did you know that you have the worst school in the city?
It's in the state.
No. That was the second comment. You have the worst school in the state. And so he takes breaks often because me and his wife keep working on him to try to get him to stop smoking, and he won't listen to her and he won't listen to me, so I've stopped trying. She's still working on it. And so he said, after he humiliated me and told me I had the worst school in the state, he then said, would you like to step outside? And I said, okay, now we're about to do something. So I'm walking outside, and he says, I'm willing to help you if you're sincere about making your school different. Now, he just humiliated me. Now he wants to help me. So I thought about it, and I said, okay, come to my school tomorrow at 8 o'clock. He was there at 8 o'clock. And we made some miraculous inquiries, discoveries. We made sure that everything that we said we were going to do for children, we did. And so, without any further ado, Mr. Jack Cassidy.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Mr. Smith. The thing is, there's not a male human being on the planet I love more than this guy. Nah. I got a big mouth. Anthony is probably the only human being on the planet that could A, get me out of bed this early in the morning, B, have me put a suit on. I had to blow the dust off this sucker. It's been 2 years since my retirement. I don't wear suits very often. And C, have to think about something that I was going to do that day. And he's the greatest. He's the only guy on the planet that could get me to do this, but I'm happy to do it because I walk in the door, and what do you hear? You hear an ensemble of singing. Okay. And how often do you get to do that? You guys were great. Really great. Pretty loud shirt on from Ghana. And is that personality infectious or what? And then we meet a lady from China. Where is she? Where'd she go? There she is. Okay. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, this is Wynn Woods. I read all about y'all in the Inquirer. This can't be Wynn Woods. Somebody from China's here. And the beautiful dance, now, do they call that Tai Chi?
Yeah.
Tai Chi, right? Not dance, more exercise?
Yeah.
For me, that's fast dancing. We go to weddings and my wife wants to dance, I give her one slow dance. That's it. I got a case of terminal cool, you know. It's about as good as it gets. And then you hear the beautiful voice of someone who's traveled from halfway around the world in Bosnia, and with everything that we know about the history of Bosnia and all the struggles and the issues that they've had and what they've been able to overcome, and you meet somebody as beautiful as this with such a beautiful voice. I mean, what a great place. So Anthony, I really appreciate it so far. I'd like to tell you that my introduction would be longer than my actual speech, but Anthony said I got 20 minutes, and I said, you know me, Anthony, I can't even say my name in 20 minutes. It's going to take me a long time, because this is a subject that I'm incredibly passionate about. By the way, I asked him, where is it? And he said, well, it's at the Forest Park Senior Center. And I said, well, how appropriate that it would be at your estate. This is, Winton Woods gives you like the governor, Ohio gives the governor a mansion, they give you a place here at the Senior Center. That's pretty appropriate, man. Oh, he's got more hair and it's a lot less gray. So I think when we talk about education, we think really about any problem that's in front of us. What I like to think about, because I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, I didn't graduate from college till about 4 or 5 months ago, but that's a whole different story. I got my honorary PhD from an academic institution about 4 years before I got my actual degree. After I retired from Bell, I did go back and finish the degree requirements. So I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I can't give you the logarithmic equation for success. I don't know that it exists. If it does, I don't have it. Okay. So I try to break things down into simple types of things that even I can handle. Okay. And when I look at any problem, I think there's two components to the problem. Okay. There's the why and there's the how. The why and the how. And most people get confused that the most important thing is the how, and they lose sight of the why. Unless you can accurately define why you're going to do something, the how you're going to do it becomes very difficult. And in a short period of 20 minutes, I may say some things here that you may believe are politically incorrect. If you do, come and see me, because I want to fully explain it to you. But in 20 minutes, I can't get there. But to me, this is a very important part. We in America love the topic of diversity, don't we? Okay? I mean, it's all we talk about. Okay? Here's a black guy, and here's a white guy. And we're diverse, right? Okay? And here's a female, Asian female, and here's a white guy. And we're diverse, right? Okay? Here's a very trim, fit individual, and here's a very overweight, balding, old guy. But we're diverse, right? The shallowness of the average American's description of what constitutes diversity, in my mind, is mind-boggling. Because let me ask you this. Did you have any part to play or any choice to make in the fact that you're a female? Did you have any part to play in the fact that you're a black male? Did you have any part to play that you're a female? Did you have any part to play in terms of where you were born? At the end of the day, we're all accidents of birth. You have your parents to thank and your DNA to thank for who you are in terms of your physical appearance. True or not true?
True.
Okay? Yet here we are. Oh, kiss me, I'm Irish. The Irish bullshit. What part of the island are you from? I don't know. You know, I mean, everybody's got this nationality thing, this race thing, and the gender thing going on, and we all like defend this to the absolute T. And some point over time, I have to believe that the world really won't care what you look like. When we think about true diversity, what is it that really makes people diverse? There are differences by definition. Diversity would say there are differences, okay? But is it their physical appearance that makes you really diverse? Isn't it more important about how we think? What did Martin Luther King say in his famous speech? I want to be judged by the content of my character, not the color of my skin. Yet races of both sides want to be judged because I'm black or I'm white. Both sides of the aisle forget about the fact that what constitutes true diversity is the content of our character, okay, or how we think. That's what constitutes true diversity. The rest is cosmetic, which frankly, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, you didn't have anything to do with. You were an accident of birth, okay? Now that I've pissed everybody off, okay, I'm going to move on to the year of our Lord, 1776. There were two very important documents that were written in the year 1776. What were they? The Declaration of Independence. You got the first one. I'll give anybody in the room $100 if you can tell me what other unbelievably important document was published in the year of our Lord, 1776. It was a book by a not so famous Scottish economist. Does that help you? His name was Adam Smith. He wrote the book, The Wealth of Nations. Anybody here ever heard of it? I got a nephew that graduated from what's the big time business school in Chicago? No, that's Pennsylvania. I forget. Anyway, there's a big time business school in Chicago. And I asked him, have you ever read the book, The Wealth of Nations, or heard about this guy, Adam Smith? And he said, no. So he got all the way through college and then all the way through MBA school. Never heard of Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations. Can anybody tell me what the principle of Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations is? Anybody tell me what that is? Well, it's kind of sad because in this room, we're all capitalists. True or not true? Who in here is not a capitalist? Who in here is a capitalist? You're brave. Okay. So the lady sitting next to the lady says she isn't. You say you're a capitalist, right? What's the definition of a capitalist?
You would have to be responsible for your own.
Someone who's responsible for you. So you're not? What definition do you use by which you say I'm not a capitalist?
Well, in deference to the board, I'll just keep that.
Yourself.
Yeah, but I follow you. I'm a capitalist. I live in America.
No. See, in order to make this interesting, I need to have someone like you that says, I asked this, I just gave a lecture at the Ohio State University. And kids whose parents have just spent roughly $150,000 on their education and have taken the theory of economics as part of their business school education can't tell me what the definition of capitalist is.
Free enterprise.
Making money. I think that the definition of capitalist, now remember I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, I generate everything down into something I can understand. The definition of a capitalist is somebody who wants a return on their investment. So, it doesn't necessarily have to do with money. So, now we're going to get personal. Do you have a boyfriend? You have a husband. Yeah, but do you have a boyfriend? You have a husband. How long have you been married?
15 years.
15 years. 35 for me. Okay? During that period of time, Did you love him?
Yes.
Do you care for him?
Yes.
Do you do things you wouldn't do for him that you wouldn't do for yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now let's say all he wanted to do is sit on the couch, drink beer, and watch football.
Yes.
Okay. It sounds a little too knowledgeable. Okay. Do you want a return on your investment with him? Do you want him to love you back, to care for you? As human beings, we all want this. Only Mother Teresa, okay, was willing to go out and make investments in people and expect nothing for it. But she got a higher reward from a different place. Okay? A capitalist is somebody who wants a return on their investment. And Adam Smith was the guy that wrote the book. And if you read through the 8 billion pages of the book, pardon me?
Invisible hand.
Ah, yes. The two concepts of Adam Smith's theory was that capitalism is the redistribution of wealth guided by an invisible hand. What does that mean, the redistribution of wealth?
Means you got $100, you give me 50. I don't have any.
No, we're not talking taxes. We're not talking the federal government. That's a whole different issue. The redistribution of wealth means that if I have $100, I'm going to spend it. Okay? I'm going to make an investment that I want a return on. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to spend it on something. Okay? And that something that I buy has to be made by someone like you or someone like you. And you get paid for that. And what happens? You take $100 and you spend it. Okay? So in a very sort of nice world, the idea is that with money, you spend money, and when you spend money, you spend it by procuring goods and services that other people provide, so they get money and they spend money. Okay? Guided by an invisible hand, which is not politically correct to talk about in terms of spirituality, but my personal belief that there is an invisible hand inherent in all of us. Okay, that at some point there's a fairness level. Where the invisible hand touched me in terms of capitalism was to say that without education, people have no chance at participating in their return on investment. Zero chance. Hopefully, not many people in this country starve. They don't. Most people have a place to go. Okay, they have a warm roof over their head. Most of the people in this country who are in poverty are far beyond many middle-class people in other countries. So great, we can all feel good about that. But what they lack by being undereducated is the chance that we've formerly called the American dream. I'm a product of the American dream. My old man worked for the government. He had 9 kids. When I was 17 years old, my rear end got booted out of the house, and the guy said, "See ya." Okay? When I was 25 years old, I was working in a gas station. Back when people used to work in gas stations. Now it's just credit cards. Okay? I was working in a gas station. Then I met this woman, and I asked her if she'd marry me. She said, "Sorry, dude. I never really saw myself being married to somebody who's 25 years old and working in a gas station. You know, if you go back to school nights, then maybe I'll consider it," which I did, and we got married. That was 35 years ago. I joined GE. I saw the world. I ran Ericsson of Sweden in North America. I worked for Rogers Cantel. I came to Cincinnati Bell 19 years ago, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. I was a product of the American dream, that if you worked hard enough on the right things, you, in fact, could participate in this thing we call capitalism. Okay? And I've been paid a lot of money. Thankfully, most of you have forgotten the stuff you read in the newspaper about me. We all know CEOs are a bunch of overpaid folks who make no investment back into society. Okay? That part of the American dream was in part due to the fact that I did pursue an education. And back in my day, you could go work for GE and not have a college degree. You can't do that in today's world. Can you work for Procter without a college degree?
Yes.
Today? Huh? You're lucky to get in the door, and if you do, you're not going to go very far, okay? So that education is unbelievably important, okay? Now I'm going to go back to diversity, and I'm going to tie it up, and if you want to, you can ask a few questions. So when I sat down next to Mr. Smith on that fateful day, what he fails to tell you is that it was at the Chamber of Commerce, and they ranked all the schools. And Taft High School was, in fact, ranked the worst high school in the city and, in fact, in the state. And frankly, as a taxpayer, I was indignant with the fact that my taxes were going to a place that year would graduate 18 kids. And by the way, the only requirement for graduation was a pulse. Anybody that was a senior that was there, you got to pass. But they weren't going to test you back then. It was what, 15, 16 years ago? They were just happy that you made it through 4 years. It was a freaking miracle that you made it through 4 years at Taft High School. And so you got the degree, and they graduated 18 of them. Okay? I went the next day, and I became more indignant with the fact that my tax dollars had gone for maybe the worst slum school I had ever seen in my life. This place was terrible. And so I asked Anthony when we went out for that smoke break. He claims that he wasn't smoking, but no. So I'm like all up in his grill. I'm like, dude, how could that happen? And look at him. He wears some Briani suits, he's a styling guy, he's well educated. Finally he looks at me and says, man, I've been there exactly 7 weeks. I'm sorry. I said, so why is a guy like you, why do you want to be at that school? He says, that's where they need you. And that's when I said, if you are serious about changing this situation, I'm serious about trying to help you. So let's look at diversity. Is he black and I'm white? Yeah. Does that mean anything? Didn't mean anything to me, the fact that he was black and I was white. Okay? It didn't mean anything to me, the fact that we were both male. It didn't mean anything to me, the fact that, he could obviously play basketball in the NBA, and I'm a short guy. Okay? It didn't mean anything to me what he looked like. What meant something to me is, what do you want to do? Where can the diversity of thought help us? He was the principal of that high school. Do I really think, as the CEO of a major company, that I knew the square root of squat about curriculum and educating people? No. I told him day one, I don't have anything to do with your curriculum. I don't want to have anything to do with your study hall periods. I don't want to have anything to do with the timing of what you do and when you do it. What I want to have something to do with is what are the results that you're planning to do. In other words, the why. Why are you going to do what you're going to do? Then we're going to talk about the how it is that we can do it together. Principal of a high school does not have the background that someone skilled in business, or at least I claim to be skilled in business, a CEO would have, okay, or participation in the community. I didn't have the principal of the high school. So the diversity of our backgrounds and of our thought came together to say, okay, Anthony, you work on your thing, you tell me what it is you want me to do over here. And as long as we're measuring and pushing for increased results and excellence, I'm in. And then my employees got it, and then the community got it. And we took the worst performing high school, we took the worst performing high school in the city. We now graduate 99% of the kids. More than half of those kids go on to college. They've been a blue ribbon school for the last 4 or 5 years. I was contacted by your school district when you were hiring Mr. Smith and asked, if I thought he'd make a pretty good administrator and head of the district. And I said, absolutely. Okay. This is a guy who puts rubber on the road. This is a guy who does what he says he's going to do. Never, ever once have I ever had an issue with Mr. Smith, in fact, in terms of what we were measuring and what the results were. Okay? So, again, I think that's probably, like, the time that I have, I'm trying to boil down 20 years of a lot of things into a little bit. But I would tell you that there are people in this room who are heavily involved. There are people in this room who are not involved. There are people in this room who are sort of kind of involved. Okay? What you can do is based on what your nature and your situation is and all the environment around the things around you. I was the CEO of one of Cincinnati's largest companies. Is that mine? How rude! It's nice to be one. I turn up the volume full blast now because after I retired, everybody used to call me. Now nobody calls me. Where the heck was I? The key, I think, is to recognize that this mission of educating and helping young people, without it, these young people have no chance. None. Zero. In America, they're not going to starve to death, okay? And they're not going to die in the sun. But will that help them realize what the promise that they have? And who's to say that one of these kids is not going to find a cure for cancer? Who's to say that one of these kids is not going to be a world leader? Who's to say that a lot of things aren't going to happen? In America, we believe that if we throw enough money at the problem, it'll go away. True or not true? Really true. Otherwise, how can you explain the tax system? I know. Work all your life, take half of what you earn, give it to the government, and let them spend it, because God knows they're a lot smarter than we are. Yeah. Both sides of the aisle. None of them make it in my book, okay? Throwing money at the issue will not solve the issue. It is counterintuitive to believe, but the fact is that human beings get educated one human at a time. One human at a time. There was a survey done of 100 millionaires in America. And they asked the question, did you go to private school or did you go to public school? Where do you think the percentages ended up?
Half and half, private, public.
They actually ended up half and half, which tells you that this whole idea of some people have an unfair advantage in start, it's garbage. It's only done by people who want to bait you into their agenda. So if it wasn't education and where it happened, the fact is they were educated, but public or private, it didn't matter. But if it wasn't education, what was the one thing that mattered?
Family.
100% of the millionaires, and I'm not saying being a millionaire is what everybody should aspire to, but it's just one judge of accomplishment, okay? 100% of the millionaires said that somewhere in their life there was at least one person who made them feel that they were special and that they could do what was being asked of them. 100% of them. And it wasn't always family. It wasn't always friends. It wasn't always acquaintances. But there was one person, teacher, whatever, who believed in that person. What we found out at Taft High School in Cincinnati Bell is by our mentoring and tutoring program is that with the lack of other support groups, that these mentors and these tutors became that one person who required that individual to think differently about where they were going and how they were going to get there. One person. That mentor, that tutor became the surrogate for someone who actually cared. When you think about the fact that you can't throw enough money at this education problem, and that it is one child at a time, and one person can make a difference in that child's life, then from my perspective, you know, you got to jump in. Okay, if everybody just do what they can do, it'd be a lot better place. But I think I'm preaching to the choir. I've heard all about y'all and how much Anthony respects and appreciates everything that you do. I just wish that we could grab the 8 million heathens that don't get the message out there and talk with those folks. But, you know, you're doing good. We can do better. You've got the right leadership here to be able to really knock it out of the park and take it to a different place. And I very much appreciate the fact that you want to be bored out of your mind and have someone else. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Taft High School, 15 years ago, what was the approximate turnaround that you saw things really start to go up?
Took a long time. You know, Taft High School didn't have a football team. And the reason they didn't have football, they hadn't had a football team in 3 years. And they hadn't scored a touchdown in 5 years. Does that tell you why they didn't have a football team? You know, you put enough young kids in a situation where they can't be any good, and sooner or later they're taking off. By the way, one thing Mr. Smith always told me I thought was important was that these kids have grown up being lied to all their life. They've been lied to by their parents, they've been lied to by the cops, they've been lied to by the politicians, they've been lied to by the teachers. The one thing we will not do under any circumstance is not deliver and continue to lie to a kid. Okay, so we brought Mike Martin, Anthony and I. Mike used to play wide receiver for the Bengals. He grew up in a really bad part of Washington D.C. His heart was there. He came in and ran a great program. And this year, anybody watch the national championship game? Yeah. Number 92, Adolphus Washington. I mentored that kid at Taft High School. Okay. Number 85 for the Oregon Ducks, Dwayne Stanford, a.k.a. Too Tall. Okay. That kid played for Anthony Smith. Adolphus played for Anthony Smith. You got two kids in the national championship team. This isn't St. Action Colburn we're talking about. We're talking about Taft High School. So little by little, whether it was through sports, the orchestra, the band, the cheerleading squad, the academics, Anthony had to take some time to figure out who the right teachers were and really had their hearts in it. I would say it took a minimum of 5 years before we even saw anything different in the grades. Okay? And then it took another 5 years to get to a very high quality, and then lately it's been over the charts. But you have to build the process.
Now, you're being the CEO of a company.
Yeah.
You're looking at the way things are here in Lincoln Woods.
Yeah.
You have a levy that's coming up and trying to tell people that you need to vote for this levy.
Yeah.
You being a CEO, people aren't going to buy that, are they?
Why wouldn't it?
Because they think that the way the scores are now,
Yeah.
probably not similar to what they are in Taft, but lower. They're looking at nothing's really, why should I spend all this my tax money to make a better place there, because they're not doing any good anyway.
The interesting thing is when I talk to the bros in my hood, Indian Hill. What do you need all that money for? You're already at a high level. You need the money to develop. You You need the money to get someplace. Okay? Once you've achieved it, really, do you need all that much money? They don't like that message. Okay? Look, you're going to ask people to part with some of their hard-earned dollars. Okay? And the United States government roughly takes about 83% of every dollar they make already in all forms of taxation. Okay? You're not the only hog at the trough. There's a lot of people looking to get in the wallet of those people. So you better have a message. And I don't know what, you know, I can tell you that your Newton Woods is better now than they were some time ago. I'm telling you they got a great future. I'm telling you they got the right leadership. Okay? I'm telling you they got the right board. All right? What if you can't run out of gas in the middle of the journey, you got to figure out a way to market that. And I wouldn't think it'd be all that difficult. Look, one of my favorite expressions is you can't fix stupid. You literally cannot fix stupid. Okay? If someone is stupid enough to say, how's that for political? Call it like it is. If someone's stupid enough to say, I'm not going to give my school district any money because their grades are bad, then don't even argue with that person. Appeal to the people who can think, okay, and go after those folks. We need to continue our investment. I'll tell you what, if all of the citizenry in Woods was at this meeting and heard what we heard this morning, done deal,
I totally agree.
right? So you got to get out, you got to sell the message. Yes,
I
ma'am.
got a couple questions. So you talked about the fact that it took 5 years to kind of start to see some changes, the needle moving. Did you have an idea at the beginning how long it would take before you started to see some progress?
I didn't know. I was CEO of a phone company. I don't know, okay? I imagine that these kids didn't get to where they were overnight, and that it would take a long time and a lot of effort to get them to a different place. So I never, you know, again, I go in with the why and the how, and I don't really go in with the how long, right? The answer is whatever it takes. We're here for the duration. We're not here to give you book bags and pencils and, you know, stuff that has no effect on a kid, okay? Just so I can, what, see my brand name on a book bag? No. We're there to make real change.
So my second question is, since you said you and Mr. Smith had such an affection for one another the first day that you met, how did you come together, the meeting of the minds, when you had such a diversity of thought in determining what to do, and especially in the prioritization of what comes first and second?
Yeah, to me, that was easy, okay? And he likes to oversell it, okay? Our moment of stress was short-lived, because I really, once he told me he'd been there for 7 weeks, I didn't lay it on him, okay? So we got over that pretty quick. The question is, how long did it take us to figure out what the order of events were? And this is why it's so important to understand the true value of diversity, okay? I understand that I am not a teacher. I'm not a principal. I'm deferring all that to him. Now, if he screws it up, I'm out of here. Okay? And he'll only have one chance, because I'll go find somebody that's not going to screw it up. And he understood, okay, that when it came to getting resources and people and help and other things, that school, that, you know, they were seriously, CPS was going to knock that school down and close it. They were looking for an excuse, and we screwed them up. Okay? And what we did the first summer is we brought more broadband and computer equipment into that school than Indian Hill or St. X or any of the so-called more wealthy schools. Okay? We began to give the student and the parents a reason to believe with something physical that things were changing. We told them if a kid got a 3 grade point average and maintained it, we were going to give them a free cell phone from Cincinnati Bell, as long as they maintained the 3.3 grade point average and a laptop computer and high-speed broadband into their homes. Because they had high speed at school, but when they went home, they didn't have it. Okay? Once they saw the physical representation that things were real, okay, then they got on board.
That was going to be my next thing. What was the ROI for Cincinnati Bell and doing all this?
What was the ROI? So once this thing achieved some amount of notoriety, it was hard to keep under the covers. Because you had Diane Sawyer on ABC News or whatever, she on CBS, or we were on CBS, we were on ABC, and all the newspapers had it on. I was at a board of directors meeting once, and they asked me, they said, this is really, 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 really good. What's in it for us? Because as a publicly traded corporation, y'all think that we're evil folks, okay, because we're in it for what's in it for us. But by law, we're in it for the value of the shareholder. I don't get to spend money on stuff that I think would be interesting or benevolent, okay? I don't get to do that by law. And some of you own shares of stock in companies, okay? Some of you invest in some companies because you like what they do on a benevolent standpoint. But there is absolutely many people who say, I don't want you spending my money on what you think is your calling on, okay? So the board of directors said, okay, what's in it for us? And I said, there's two things that are in it for us. I said, in my mind, as a CEO, I only think about customers and employees. Because if you take care of customers and employees, the shareholder will be taken care of. Customers and employees. And when I look at the area and over the Rhine around Taft High School, I see neither customers nor employees. You should think, as I think about this, as a market development opportunity. I'm developing future employees, and I'm developing future customers. And they said, okay. This is the invisible hand of capitalism, okay? Customers and employees make investment, develop the market, develop the opportunity. That's what was in it for us. You're welcome. Any questions? Well, thanks so much. I really enjoyed it. And you were not allowed to use the word amazing. Awesome. Or any other 17-year-old's way of saying, dude, you blew me away. No.
What words do I use? Oh my.
Don't do it.
It was powerful. It was powerful. Thank you.